admit.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our 8th of July 2026 webinar today. So I'm going to give you a little welcome, and then we're going to get into our presentation, but also something else I want to talk about. So I'd like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional owners throughout Australia and pay respects to elders past and present. I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us today. I acknowledge the Turrbal and Yugara people where QUT now stands and offer my gratitude that I'm able to live and work on this beautiful land. If you'd like to put in the chat where you're joining us from today, you are, of course, most welcome. So, starting off today, just a little request that Kerry and I and our colleague Annette would like, and of course Alia groups people. We've got quite a large number of people that are members now, and when you join up, you're asked, do you want to participate and why? And we get fabulous responses to that. And Kerry and I sometimes send out, events that are on to the list and stuff, but largely we're not hearing much back from people. So what my request for today is, and of course Kerry's also requesting, is that if you have some burning topic that you would like to talk about or us to try and find speakers, or if indeed you'd like to be a speaker yourself, we'd be happy to hear from you, because it's not just a Kerry and Jill group and Annette and our convener, Heather, who works for Alia. So that'd be great if we could hear some more back and forward. And I know everyone's busy, but as a group, it would really help us. We've got 2 more webinars planned this year, and today's, I think, will be excellent and should get lots of questions back and forward at the end of the session. So I'm going to pass over to Kerry to introduce Pamela as our speaker for today.
Hi, everybody. I realized I forgot to get Pamela to give me a bio. Oops, it's been a busy end of financial year. So Pamela is the library coordinator, library manager at Queanbeyan Pelham. Yeah, help me out with the pronunciation.
How
I'm
about
sorry.
you just say QPRC like it says on the screen,
All
and I
right,
can
yeah.
provide more details afterwards.
So QPRC, which is down near Canberra, where it's cold right now, I'm presuming. And she's going to talk to us today about the wonderful journey that she's been on in building a digitisation space. And hopefully everyone can learn a little bit something about that. So take it away, Pamela. You're right. It's
Oh, yes, it
tech.
was there and
Yep.
then it's gone. Okay. All right, let me
Right.
try again. Sorry, everybody. I think might be my first rodeo in a long time sharing the screen. So it's good to get those little like irks and quirks out of the way early on. All right, that is what I would like to show. Then I click on share, and now it's going to share, and I can see everything else on my screen, which is perfect. All right, good afternoon, everybody, and just thank you once again to Kerry and Alia for giving me this great opportunity to talk about adventures in procurement, equipment, and digitisation. So this story has a little bit of everything. It's been an incredible journey that we're still going on. So I hope that there's something in this for you today to take away, even if it's a few giggles and shaking the head of some of the things that we've encountered along our way. I would also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the Queanbeyan Palerang area, which is what the QP stands for, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. we acknowledge the stories, traditions, and living cultures of First Nations people on this land and commit to building a brighter future together. And we're looking forward to engaging more with our First Nations community around what items and what history can be included within our local studies collection as well. So yeah, it's great to be able to have those relationships and those discussions. So how did our story start when it came to our digitisation journey? And I think a really important thing to do is there has to be a plan. So there are a few key things that we needed to have in place before we were like grant ready to be able to apply for money to be able to do the amazing things that we have done and we are continuing to do and will do in the future as well. So the first part of that was a library strategy. So this is something that we did in 2022, and the message was really loud and clear from the community that the Heritage Library and our local and family history collection really needed some TLC, needed some additional attention just to make sure that we're preserving it well and we're making it accessible to the community. So it was great when we went out that people gave us that really strong feedback, which then we were able to shape what we wanted to do in the strategy as setting a direction forward for our library. The second part that was really important for our journey was our home. So this is the Frank Pangello Heritage Library, and this is a building that has a storied life and is about to turn 100 next year. So it's been a school of arts. It was Queanbeyan's main library as well, and most recently it was our local council chambers. There was a unanimous council decision to transform this building into the Heritage Library so that it can house our family and local history collection, but also a larger space for us to explore things like digitisation and for that opportunity to also grow our collection as well. And this was something that required some people to, yeah, there was lots of attention and focus on this from the community as well, because we were in, this library was co-located in the old Queanbeyan Library, and we're now in that building in the corner that's brand new, and there wasn't a space that was dedicated or earmarked for the Heritage Library. So this was a fantastic outcome for us and for the community as well. We also got a significance assessment done, and this was really important because we needed to know what we had, why it was important, and some broad directions in terms of next steps. So the things that were picked up in this process were old council's rates books. There was the Queanbeyan District Hospital and Public Health records, the Queanbeyan Age newspaper, some oral history collections, and the too long didn't read version of this was that digitisation and cataloguing is essential for what we have. Which was stuff that we already knew, but it's always great to have that official documentation that then makes it easier to apply for grants. So the grant that we chose to apply for was the State Library New South Wales Public Library Infrastructure Grant, and we did this for the 23-24 financial year. And when we were looking at the criteria, we were able to check off each one due to the groundwork and the preparation that we had done beforehand. So it was definitely going to improve library services for our community. It addressed a need. Council had the commitment there in terms of the building that the Heritage Library was going to live in, and also the strategy that we wanted to see growth and improvement in that area. The viability and sustainability of the project was highlighted by the equipment that we were going to purchase, to note that we would be able to do things in-house, the capacity to deliver the project, and then the key thing at the end, and this is a fairly new change, was the first year in 23-24, IT and digitisation projects were eligible. So with that, we're like, these are green lights all the way, and we're going to apply for this grant. And we were fortunately successful in that, which is fantastic. So to talk about what we covered off with the project. So it was $292,000 of grant funding from State Library, and then Council also had some money that they put into the project. And the building itself was one of those core expenses that we noted in kind contribution. So first thing we looked at was oral history. So we have built an acoustic treated voice recording studio, which sounds a little bit more fancy than what it already is. And I'll put some photos up later and talk about what we did there. So We've got an iMac, Rodecaster Pro, 3 loanable oral history kits, and 3 camera video kits. Video camera the other way. That's good to know. I'll show you photos of what's in those kits shortly. We also purchased some scanners. So I know that people are often really interested in the details, so I'll talk about what we bought. So for our A2 Plus scanner, we bought the Book i5 V2 Archive book scanner. And for those that are wondering how much the cost for that is, it's sitting around $85,000. The A2 flatbed scanner, we went with a WideTech 25650. That's around $26,000. And then our microfilm scanner, we went for the Scan Pro 3500 all in one, and that was around $20,000. So right away, you can see that the $292,000, yeah, gets spent pretty quickly when you start buying large equipment like this. We also did some digitisation. So with our digitisation, we had 173 cassette conversions. So that cost us around $4,000. So those tapes have a local historian back in the day, Bert Sheedy, doing oral history and interviews with local residents of Queanbeyan and people that have contributed to what Queanbeyan is today. So that's been really exciting to get that done. And then the next steps for that collection will be looking at how we move forward in terms of transcribing those records. I can now show you a photo of this is our video camera kit. So you can see that there's a really nice big bag with it. We've got a Nikon in there. And when we bought this stuff, we really wanted to align with what other parts of council had done in terms of equipment. So we really sought the advice from our comms team around what products to purchase and what they use. And the hot tip that they gave us were the wireless Go microphones. You can just clip them on and the audio can be picked up through the camera. And it's what the comms team uses whenever they're doing interviews outside, or the general manager's update sitting in her office, and it does get really good clear audio, so I can give those a special plug. Here is our oral history kit. So it's great to note that the Oral History Handbook has had a new edition release this year, so they must have known that we were building these kits. Just for us, it's available, so we've put a copy of that in each kit. We've also bought a Zoom H5 Studio Handy Recorder. So for the whole kit that you've got there, you're looking at around $1,000 each. We did buy some condenser mics as well, but we've chosen to keep them separate for now just because it requires a little bit of extra care and attention when it comes to recording with a microphone that's more sensitive. This also has a really big kit bag that it all goes in as well. So there's like the big bag of stuff that you can carry, but also within the kit, even if you just want to take the Zoom, you can do that as well. So this is our, I'm just trying to remember the name that we've actually called it out. Unofficially, it's our oral history studio, but I think the new title is Heritage Library Voice Recording Studio. So this is a room that was completely sealed off. It doesn't have any outside walls, and it's got 2 doors on either side. And this was kind of like a councillor meeting room back in the day. So we had somebody come and do some testing of the space acoustically, and that report cost around $5,000. So we were asked, what's the most busiest time where there's going to be a lot of traffic and you can pick up, what the maximum amount of noise will be. And for us, that was 2:45 p.m. School's about to finish, and there's 2 schools nearby, so it's going to be a lot of traffic at that point in time. So they were able to compare in a quiet time and in a busy time in terms of the suitability of the room. And then there were some recommendations around what treatment we could apply. And for us, we went for the cheapest and easier option, just because the more expensive it got, it included very large kind of renovations in terms of making a separate entryway to then open up the door to move into this space here. You can see that we've got paneling around the top of the room, except for the bit that's got the archway on it. And then we've got paneling along the sides of the library so that when you're sitting down using the equipment, That's really going to contain the noise in that space. We've also changed the doors and the seals on the doors so that they are absorbing sound as well. And you really do notice how it sounds in the room instead of outside it as well. So we're really pleased with the result there. The other thing is that we do have aircon in this room as well. So when people do want to do a recording, we would make recommendations about, consider whether you do need the aircon on or not. So I'm thinking about if Carrie was to use this space, she might want to pop the heater on for 30 minutes before she comes in and turns it off again. So this whole, the paneling and the install there, we were looking about $5,000 for that work as well. We did make sure with our heritage team at council, made sure that it was okay for us to install these in our library as well. Okay, are we up to the reality? We are the reality. So this is where we get to the tragedy part of the story. Things started to go wrong in this project. So to talk through what some of those are, I'm sure that many of you have experienced the joy of having heritage items in a heritage building. So building just started to have leaks, and it was something that we kind of knew about for a while, and there was a plan for the roof to get repaired, but it got to the point where I can't publicly share photos, but I can say that there were puddles that you could splash in on the ground. Fortunately, none of the collection was damaged, and we did have some tarps over some sections, so we were able to move collection out of the space. And it just happened that it was at the time where the equipment was due to be installed. Within a couple of weeks, we were going to get blinds installed as well. And we just had to call time out and just say, look, can we just postpone this until we're back in the building and that the roof has been fixed and we're confident that it's safe to be in. The other bits and pieces that impacted was that the fluctuation in equipment prices. So we know that the Australian dollar against the US dollar, there's been some big movement in that. So that was something that had to be factored in to when we were buying equipment. The other thing that you learn when it's your first rodeo in doing digitisation is that often it just costs way more than anticipated. And I think what I thought we were going to get done for the $100,000 that we put aside for the rates digitisation versus what actually got done, there's a bit of a gap there, and I think that's something that I've learned along the way, and we'll talk more about that later on in the presentation. We are also in the middle of a library management system procurement process, so trying to figure out what are we going to do with digitised objects and how that's going to play in with either our current LMS or a different one when we change, just added an extra degree of uncertainty about what we might be doing. Where to store digitized objects as well. So we didn't have a repository or anything else set up because this is our first time doing it. The rate books that we have also belong to the Museum of History in New South Wales because they're a state record. So that's something that we need to consider and take that requirement seriously. For things to go back to the Museum of History, records needs to sentence them, which is another step that we learnt needed to take place. And then you always have timeframes for spending funds as well. So in terms of what we learned, there were lots of things that we learned. But in terms of purchases, I think the first thing is to check your organisation's procurement and delegations, and to allow time for a request for quote to go out and for responses to come back. And it was one of those things that often when you get proposals, there'll be other questions that come out of that. So there can be a lot of toing and froing with respondents around what they offer, what their equipment can and can't do. The other one is around assess value for money. So the cheapest solution may not be the best. And I think in our instance, FADGI4 was a really important standard that's set by the National Archives of Australia and the National Library that impacted our choice of our A2 Plus scanner. So that was really important that what we purchased was able to meet the standards that are set for these collections. price can be exchange rate sensitive, which we've talked about, and delivery, install, and training can take months. So often, like, we're almost ready to move back into the Heritage Library now. And unfortunately, the install of the equipment now can't happen until August. So obviously there's been a few different moving parts there, but we're almost there. August won't be too far away, and we'll have the equipment with us, which is really exciting. In terms of what we learned from the digitisation side, things cost more than you think. And I think there's some things that we did to try and save money. Yeah, so when you look at books, some only have a few pages of notation and they're huge, and then some have something on every page. So you can't get great estimates when you don't actually know what's in the books until you open them. We made the decision to outsource digitisation of larger and fragile objects because that's something that we definitely can't do ourselves, and that's worked out really well for us. I've got some images to share shortly. Prioritizing what's important first. That was really key, and in conversations with the Museum of History, they were saying that if we want to retain copies of the rates books, then they would like to have a preservation copy for their collection, as opposed to an access copy. When they've got the items, they prefer to have an access copy and not a preservation copy. So these are things that you discover when you're in the middle of it. The other thing is that the tough business decisions that we had to make was around, do we keep money aside for cataloguing? Because that was something that we had said that we would do in the grant, and it just ended up being that digitisation was more important for us to outsource, and cataloguing something that we can do in-house. Some other councils, when they do scanning, they'll say to their contractor, can you just scan everything? Because we were working on a budget, we asked the scanning service not to scan blank pages. And the other conversation that we're having at the moment is how much preservation, like how much can we do in terms of storage? How much storage do we have? What's going to be the ongoing costs? Yep, preservation or access copies. They're the conversations that we're having now. So here is a photo of our rates books before they were taken away for digitisation. So you can see that they've been wrapped in bubble wrap, and I know that that's not necessarily best practice. The way that this happened was in the move to Premier Library to our new Frank Pangello Heritage Library. This was the way that the team prepared them to be moved by removalists, and from that we were able to create an inventory of what we have. So before this, we didn't necessarily have any record of what's there. So that inventory, while it didn't have a lot of details, it was a great first step in terms of going out for quotes for the work to be done, as well as the start of what might look like a catalogue entry once we add them to a library management system or content management system. So we had 104 different entries for at Queanbeyan. So some of them were really large rates books, and then some of them were boxes that had, more like single couple of different books inside them that had rates and charges. So it was something that was really difficult to quantify what we had. The content from here is, we've got stuff as early as 1885, and then we've got stuff that goes through to the 80s as well. And here's another image of what some of the larger ones looked like. And it was a process of making sure that we were following, safe work practices in terms of lifting and moving these from our library into the van for our digitizer to take with them. We also had material at Braidwood. So this is a photo of upstairs at Braidwood Library where other council offices are. And you can see that there's a fair amount of, it's a little bit more tidier than what's at Queanbeyan, but it's really helpful for this. There's 76 different volumes that are dating from 1907 to 1953, And due to all the different amalgamations that happen in New South Wales, yeah, our Heritage Library doesn't necessarily capture some of these things beyond outside Queanbeyan. So we're really actively collecting in this space to make sure that the whole LGA is represented. Here is one of the digitised front covers for a valuation book from 1914 to 1916 from the municipality of Queanbeyan. Let me show you what scan quality we've been able to get. So this these kind of books are really great for research because unlike a lot of other books, this one includes information on not just who owned the house or the lot, but who was actually living there at the time. And I'm going to click on the next slide just so you can see that level of detail. It really does make it far more legible. And yeah, we're really pleased with the output and the quality of the scans as well. That's just the other side of the same page. Training and learning became a really important part of this journey. So there were a couple of things that we did in that space. The first one was to have a couple of our staff sign up for the ALIA cataloging basics training, which happened in March this year, just for people that hadn't necessarily done a lot of cataloging as part of their usual role, but we knew that that's going to become something that's more prominent now that this digitisation process has begun. We also organised some digital preservation training because this is really important for us. We don't have any workflows in this area. So for us, that whole idea of when I look at the digital preservation definition, where it talks about a series of managed activities necessary to ensure continued access to digital materials for as long as necessary. That was stuff that we didn't have a lot of expertise in-house. So to be able to receive some training in that, which then shapes our digitisation plan as we look to build our workflows as well, was really valuable. We were able to invite the local Queanbeyan Museum. They sent a couple of people along to this training and they also found it really beneficial. Once we get the equipment, we will definitely be doing how to use the equipment training. So that'll be coming up very shortly. And then the other thing that's just been really helpful is learning from others and understanding the standards in this space. So I've listed all those people before, and the local studies e-list for New South Wales Public Libraries is also a fantastic wealth of information and support. Volunteers are something that we're planning for in the future, and it was something that was specifically targeted and mentioned in our library strategy. So we've actually created a PD at the moment, and working with our learning and development team at council, there are some things that we do require volunteers to do. So things like code of conduct training, WHS incident and reporting, diversity and inclusion, and working with children checks. So it's good to have that component locked away so that the organisation is comfortable and confident that we're following due processes there. And we will work with our museum. So there's the Braidwood Museum as well as the Queanbeyan Museum to work with those groups around what training that they would appreciate and find helpful as well. From that, we're trying to work out how we're going to roll this out, whether we bring organisations into the same training that we'll be receiving or whether we use a train the trainer model. And I think the great thing is this is just the excitement about what the improved access and specialised equipment means and can do for them. So I know that this is something that has been coming for a long time, and that people have things that they want to do with the equipment already. They've got things in mind, which is great. So yeah, this next bit's kind of like where we are now. So based on a few different things that have happened, we're in the position that we've made the decision that all items that are currently a way to be digitised, we'll bring them all back to the library, whether they have been digitised or or not. So we'll receive all that material back. For the items that haven't been digitised, we will create a plan for what in-house digitisation looks like. And we've talked to our record team as well around what digitisation equipment they have. So I think some of their equipment may be more suitable for some of the things that we want to do that are less than A4 size. But for things that are, that A3, A2 range, it'll be our equipment that we'll be using for that. We have started discussions with the Museum of History around distributed management and around what type of digital copies they would like for what we've digitised. So distributed management of state archives is an alternative to the standard option of transferring records to the Museum of History's custody. So under this model, state records still becomes state archives when control passes to Museum of History New South Wales, but the record remains in the custody of another person. So in this case, it will involve the responsible public office or a repository, such as a regional repository, storing and managing state archives by agreement with Museums of History New South Wales. So there are standards that that are set with that, and now that we've had work in the Heritage Library complete, I think that that will put us in a better position to be able to talk about our capacity to be custodians for those documents. There will be some items that we have digitised that we won't want to keep on site. So we'll work with our local records team for them to do the sentencing and for that to be sent to New South Wales Museum of History. Access copies that we have got digitised, we will be uploading them onto eHive, and we're using eHive because that's what the local Queanbeyan Museum is using, so that there's a bit of a synergy there as well. The PDF size for eHive is 200 megabytes. So we've been able to ask our scanners to create different, scan 1, scan 2, scan 3 of items where the overall size of the digitisation is more than 200 megabytes, which is great. And we'll also be storing them on a local RAID. And for those that are interested in what we ended up purchasing, we bought a Lakey to Big RAID 28 terabyte, which cost around $1,800. So where are we now with the Heritage Library? I'm really pleased to announce that we're going to be moving back in shortly. We're just waiting for the environmental report, which should be coming in any day now, that says that there's no airborne mould to be concerned about and that it is safe for us to occupy the space. From there, we'll be setting up our oral history studio, making it available for bookings. Our equipment's going to be installed in August, and that will also include training that will be run by the suppliers as well. Our digitisation plan is currently being drafted, and we're thinking about what those workflows will look like now, so that when the equipment's installed, it will be around tinkering what we've already got so that we're well placed for that change. The other great thing that's happened during this time is that we are extending our opening hours at the Heritage Library to be 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. on weekdays. Prior to that, it was 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through to Thursday. So that extra day is going to make a really big difference in terms of the community having access, as well as us having more FT in terms of staffing. So that's been a really great outcome. And then, of course, when you do a grant funded project, the acquittal needs to be done as well. So looking forward to doing that once we've got a few more things locked into place and being able to talk about, the great impact that this is having for our community. And then, that's it. Thank you so much for your time today. And please don't hesitate to reach out. So I've included my email address as well as the Heritage Libraries as well. So please don't be a stranger. And next time you're in town, please come on by and visit us. We'd love to see you there.
Thanks,
Well,
Pamela. That's great. I just see Mel has answered the question that we had in the chat. So I'm just going to throw it open. Does anybody else have any questions for Pamela and her journey so far?
I have one actually, Pamela, in those very beautiful rate books. The handwriting's obviously cursive, but is there any potential for them to be made into text that people could then search?
Yeah, it's one of those things that the technology keeps getting better in
Yes.
what gets done in that space. So it's not something that we've necessarily pushed for too much, but we do know that with those quality of scans, as software
Mm.
improves and that kind of thing, there's nothing stopping us from putting them through something that may do the OCR component for sure.
I guess it's always just going back to the same thing, and you've got so many new things that you have to get onto. But
Yeah, I'll
one,
just chime in as well. When it comes to those particular books, the one that Pamela shared with you, the 1914 to 16 book, is one of the most information-rich books in the collection, and that one has in fact been transcribed by a local historian by
oh,
hand manually. But that process hasn't taken place for any of the others. I'm really interested to see what HCR, so you know about
mm,
OCR, I'm interested to see what handwriting character recognition does in the
yeah,
future. Right
yeah.
now, it's not very good, but I'd be really curious to see what it could do for things like this that have been digitized in the
Mm.
future.
It's going to be tricky handwriting because, my writing's pretty terrible and some people's are beautiful. So it's got to know how to read everything. And I've got 100,000 35 mil slides here with terrible handwriting. But the other thing I'm not sure if anyone knows about in terms of training is, and I've done a few of them, is Library Juice Academy in the United States has a month-long modules, and the digital curation ones are really good and, in my opinion, quite cost effective when they're converted to Australian dollars. I've learnt heaps doing those in the past. So you can actually get a digital curation certificate if you complete all 6 of those, but I haven't bothered to do all 6, just a couple I've been interested in. Because I think sometimes I've noticed going to America some years ago and even New Zealand, we're quite behind in this space um, compared to our colleagues in New Zealand and in the US. But as we always say, and Kerry is always saying it too, good is better than zero, and 80-20 rule is good as well. We got to just and you're seemingly doing a really fabulous job in getting your community engaged, and it's so good that they've got excitement around it and you've got volunteers. So really well done, Pamela and team. Yep.
I just also wanted to introduce Mel for those that don't Mel doesn't for those who don't know Mel is our local history librarian. So they've got a big job in front of them next couple of weeks as we move in and equipment gets installed as well.
I've actually got some handwritten building registers, which the person, and praise to them, their handwriting is so good that it OCRs them. So that was just, I know it's beautiful, but it's block print and it's just beautiful. But they are very rare and far between. And as they're saying, cursive is the new code. So people won't be able to read our letters in the near future. Okay, so doesn't look like we have any other questions, do we? Come on, everybody, don't be shy, please. Does anybody else have any questions? No? Okay. Pamela, are
I
you willing to share are you allowed to share any of the companies that you dealt with, which might be helpful?
Yeah, look, I'm happy for people who would like a list of what we've ended up purchasing. I can share that. I'll share that with you all just so you know what we've bought. The other thing that I didn't share in the photos was what the roof replacement looked like in terms of the work that took place. So there was a huge fence that had to go around the entire perimeter of the building, and then it was like very high scaffolding, and you would see them lifting up and replacing the roof tiles as it went along. So with the use of tarps as well, it was quite a sight to behold. And we were just talking about how the weather didn't necessarily work in our favour to get some nice photos of what the works continue to be, but I do have a couple of photos where you can see that scaffolding up high. So I'll include those in the presentation as well.
Thanks. And you said that your grant was the state library grant, so it's probably
Yep.
the same one that built my digitisation lab as well. So, everybody out there, if you're looking to do something similar, get in there on these grants because they are practically the only way any of us will be able to achieve these things.
And don't be shy in asking for lots of money for actual digitisation either. So, yeah, what you think you might need, yeah, it might be a lot more than that. So the challenge was that we really didn't know what was in the collection at all. So when the collection was being moved and wrapped up, there were all these great things that were discovered that nobody knew what was in there as well. So nothing like using an opportunity when it comes to start with something, a small record of what's available or what you have in your collection, to then move forward with that.
Yeah, it's
Great.
really shown for us how critical knowing your collection is. And so, to give an example of something that added to costs for us, some of these books had really, really fine paper, which meant when the company was digitizing them, they were getting bleed through from the back. And so, to digitize those pages in a way that was legible, they had to slip backing paper in behind each page and scan it that way, which adds time and labor. So know what your materials are. It's really important, I think, when it comes to getting a better estimate of what's going to be involved in your digitisation project.
Yeah, we love a good little bleed through, don't we? It's lovely.
And if you're not in New South Wales, I know Victoria's got some similar grants. Western Australia does fabulous collaboration with their groups around, the museum and the universities and so on. But if you're in Queensland, commiserations because we got nothing. But anyway, you still do what you can with what you've got. So yeah, well, I don't think we've got a lot else, Kerry. We're going pretty well.
Yeah.
But to thank
Right. Huge
Pamela.
thanks to Pamela and Mel.
Yeah, yeah, and best wishes for the next little while. And maybe we could do a little quick follow-up if you'd like to let us know in 6 months or something, because it's practical projects like these that people learn very much from, I think, rather than us all being in our own little bubbles and thinking, oh, it's too hard, it's too big. So just one step at a time.
Okay, cool. I can see a question. Do you have a preservation plan? I think that's going to be part of our digitisation plan. We'll note the preservation plan as well in that. And in our new heritage library, because it's a large space that had lots of offices, we have been able to pick out a room that's specifically going to be for preservation. So we'll be able to do some of that in-house, but we also, as part of this grant, identified this amazing hospital register who had the name of a very important Indigenous person. It's local to the area called Nellie Hamilton. And the building that I'm actually sitting in right now is called the Nellie Hamilton Centre. So it was great to be able to use some funds to have the preservation of that as well as the digitisation. So we'll continue to have some money annually to use for preservation as well. So it won't be a lot, but it will be a little, and we'll be able to prioritise some items that way.
Excellent. All right then. Thanks everybody. Thanks Pamela. Thanks Mel. And hope to see you all again in when is our next one? Or September perhaps. So check out our website, the ALIA Digitisation Digital Preservation website. I've listed all of the events on there. We do email you, but please, yeah, give us some feedback, give us some ideas, put your hand up to present on something. We have to plan these things very, very far in advance. Also, Jill has an awesome film digitization, digital preservation webinar coming up in October for World Film Digital Preservation Day. So, yeah, that'll be a fantastic webinar to log into. But yeah, check out the events page and pop them all in your calendar. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye.
Bye.